Welcome back to Adventures in Randomia, my solo D&D adventure series. This is episode 13, in which our adventurers finally leave Ice Hollow and the snowy landscape of the far north and travel on the ship the Frosty Maiden towards their next destination of Everpool on the mainland towards the west. At the end of this episode, there will be the opportunity for you to have your say on how this adventure unfolds. I hope you enjoy it. Please do let me know in the comments, and if you do, remember to subscribe so you can catch the whole series. Last time, Connor and Freya interrogated the lizardfolk sorcerer who had been killing thieves in the Ice Hollow jail. Connor discovered that the lizardfolk was responsible for the deaths of his gangmates in the city of Coracur to the south. Connor takes his revenge and kills the lizardfolk, much to Clarissa's shock and disapproval. They then travel through the sewers under Ice Hollow to find all the stolen loot in a cave on the beach. Clarissa insists they return the stolen items to the people of Ice Hollow, but they do get a good haul of coin to take with them. We rejoin our adventurers having only had a short rest overnight, as they are up early to embark on the Frosty Maiden. It is early morning, and Clarissa awakes to the noise of clinking and counting. 785, 796, 797. What are you doing, Freya? Sheesh! Freya waves her hand. 798, 799, 800. I'm counting all the coin from the lizardfolk's chest. How long has that taken you? Asked Clarissa. Oh, I haven't slept. It's all right. I don't need my beauty sleep like you do, Clarissa. But look at all this coin. And she motions proudly to the neatly stacked piles of coins. There's 10 platinum pieces, 800 gold pieces, and 1,800 copper pieces to share between the three of us. She grins excitedly at Clarissa. We really have hit the jackpot this time. Clarissa looks at Freya with a pained expression on her face and sighs. What's wrong, Clarissa? I thought you'd be pleased. We returned all the stolen items like you asked. What's wrong? It's all wrong. And she sighs again. I'm still angry with Connor about last night. And I'm still angry with you. Me? What have I done? You could have stopped him when I asked you to. You have the strength to stop him casting, but you did nothing. Oh, I didn't know what to do, says Freya. I suppose I agreed with him that it was best to kill that lizard folk. What? How can you believe that's the right thing to do? Thing is, Clarissa, I really admire you for all your values and principles. You're an amazing person, tabaxi. But that's not the way the real world works. Connor was right. As soon as we left, that sorcerer would have used his magic to escape those guards and be back to his old tricks again. They were no match for him. It's better this way. Clarissa sighs heavily again. The more we go on with this adventure, the more confused I become about what's right and what's wrong. It was all so simple back at the temple. Come on, Clarissa, there's no time to be thinking about this right now. We've got a boat to catch. She ties a large piece of cloth around each pile of coins to create a bundle. Here's your share. Wow, that's heavy, says Clarissa. Yeah, grins Freya. Time to go spend it on something. Clarissa pushes the bundle into a large side pocket in her backpack, and they head on down to the bar. They order a hearty breakfast. Freya asks Finn, the bartender, if he can change up some of the copper to make it easier to carry. Sorry, no, he says. I have the same problem. Too much small coin. You'll have to visit a coin exchanger in the city for that. They'll charge you for it, though. Freya and Clarissa tuck into their breakfasts. We better make the most of this, says Freya. No telling what the food on this boat will be like. Eventually, Connor stumbles in and orders a bacon sandwich. It looks like he hasn't slept either. Morning, ladies. And he nods to the two of them. Here, says Freya, and she passes over a bundle of coin to Connor. Wow, that's quite a decent haul for a night's work, says Connor. Clarissa doesn't say anything, but busies herself with a rather crispy piece of bacon. There is still tension in the air between the two of them. Come on, says Freya, we best get down the dock. We don't want to be late. They bid farewell to Finn and head outside laden with their packs. They start walking along the front down to the docks, and within about 10 minutes they see their ship at the dockside. The Frosty Maiden is a well-appointed caravel with a carved wooden figurehead of a fierce woman holding a trident. They see an imposing-looking half-orc on the dockside, inspecting crates and barrels, with a dwarf who looks to be the ship's cook. The half-orc then looks up and shouts across to a halfling, giving orders to 4 other sailors on the ship's deck. Hey, Turek, mind you store that anchor chain properly. We don't want any more accidents like last time. The halfling shouts back. Mind your own business, Gron. You're not the captain, you know. I've been boasting on this ship far longer than you've been around. They then notice a flamboyantly dressed half-elf standing at the bottom of the gangplank. "Oh, you must be our passengers. Welcome. I'm Captain Baldric of the Frosty Maiden, at your service," and he gives a low bow. "Don't you worry yourselves about those two. They always be arguing. So who do we have then?" And he consults the passenger list. "Freya Wildhammer. That's me. Clarissa of St. Winifred's. Present. Connor O'Fallon. Yes, that's me. Would that be the O'Fallons from Donamara in the west?" he asks. "Could be," says Connor. "I don't know exactly where my family's from originally, but out west somewhere." "Oh, Donamara be a grand place. You should be visiting sometime. We regularly ran the Frosty Maiden beyond the Shingle Isles to the west. It's a lovely journey. Let me know if you're interested." "Okay, thanks," says Connor. "Well, passage to Everpool for the three of you. That'll be 25 gold each." They open their packs and the sound of jingling coins can be heard as they each fish out 25 gold from their recent gains. "Good job we took the coin," says Connor. "This is a bit pricey." Captain Baldric watches with interest, seeing how much coin they have with them. Clarissa then asks, "How long will the journey take?" Well, it all depends on the weather and the wind. 'Tis a fine day for sailing. We should make part in about 3 to 4 days if this holds." "Thank you," says Clarissa. "I'd like to follow the journey on my map." There do be an awful stink around the dock today," remarks Captain Baldric, and he waves a large purple silk handkerchief under his nose. The three of them realise that this is coming from their clothes, still stinky from the journey through the sewer the night before. Freya tries wafting it a bit, but it doesn't help. "Vlad," calls Captain Baldric, "would you take these fine people aboard and show them their cabins?" They walk hurriedly up the gangplank and are led below to a lower deck by a young sailor. Clarissa and Freya are in a small shared cabin with 2 bunks on the port side. Connor is in the equivalent cabin on the opposite starboard side. There's a further sleeping cabin at the stern, next to the ship's office. They don't see any other passengers there currently. The ship soon sets sail and heads east out into the bay. So let's check the weather conditions for sailing. We roll on the weather table and find that it is a warm temperature with a variable wind and a clear sky. We then check for wind speed and find that it's a moderate breeze, which means this ship can sail at increased speed. The wind direction is from the northeast. As the Frosty Maiden emerges from the bay, there is a fine view of the surrounding land. To the north, majestic hills and towering mountains loom in the distance, their peaks still blanketed with a pristine layer of snow. The southern shore reveals a stark contrast as the snow has receded in the warmth of the late spring sun, leaving behind patches of grass and rugged terrain. The sun glitters off the crests of small waves formed by the breeze. The only sounds are the cream of the surf beneath the bow, the creak of the rigging, and the occasional cry of a seagull. Then let's check whether they have any random encounters on this first day of their journey. We're going to set a 25% chance for an encounter 3 times per day. We roll a 31 and then a 62, so there is no encounter in the morning or the afternoon of the first day. It is a quiet, uneventful first day, and the ship makes good progress. The adventurers acclimatise themselves to being on board. Freya is on deck watching the crew at work. Clarissa is observing the passage and making notes on her map. Connor is chatting with any crew members with time to spare. By the end of the first day, the Frosty Maiden has travelled 72 miles and made it round to the south of the island, where they dock in a small bay. In the evening, as paying passengers, the party is invited to dine with Captain Baldric and the first mate Grondar. They settle themselves in the warding room, located next to the captain's cabin off the main deck. The ship's cook brings them a tasty meal of a stew made with fresh local shellfish. The conversation at dinner comes round to the captain's knowledge of the O'Fallon family from the west. "So, Captain Baldric," says Connor, "what can you tell me of these O'Fallons of Donamara?" So we ask the oracle, does Connor learn anything interesting from Captain Baldric about the O'Fallon family? We roll a 10, which is a maybe, and suggests we need to roll a further skill check. Captain Baldric replies, "Well, I have heard a story or two about those O'Fallons, but I'm not sure I should say. It's not all good, you know." "Well, if it's my family, I think I've a right to know," says Connor. He rolls a 12 for persuasion. So let's roll on keywords to find out what the captain tells him. We get the words temper, crypt, smell, and unnatural. Well, there's always been something a bit odd about the O'Fallon family. Some of them go mad, or strange things happen to them. Years ago, there was this one O'Fallon, completely mad they say, couldn't do a real day's work. Used to go out in the night, or for days at a time, and smelled odd too. Then he got into an argument one night in the tavern. He flew into a temper and stormed out, saying he was leaving for good this time. Then his body turned up in the crypt a few weeks later. Some say something unnatural had happened to it. Unnatural? Says Clarissa. Yeah, I don't know what, but that's what they do be saying about it. Connor listens quietly and makes no comment. He appears a bit discomforted by the story. They all retire for the night. So let's roll to see if there's an encounter in the night. We roll a 16, so yes there is. We roll on the sea encounters table and we get an 8. This is spoiled food. One of the supply crates contains almost rotting food. There's a chance for anyone that eats it to succumb to food poisoning. So we ask the question, was this rotten food used to cook the dinner they ate that evening? We roll a 15, so yes it was. We make a constitution check to find out if anyone is affected. Freya, Connor and the first mate all succeed on the constitution save. They feel no ill effects from the meal. However, Clarissa and the captain fail and so succumb to the food poisoning. Clarissa suffers from food poisoning for the next 21 hours. The captain is sick for 11 hours. In the middle of the night, Freya is awakened by the sound of Clarissa moaning and groaning. Oh, what is it, Clarissa? What's wrong?
Oh, I feel so awful. I think I'm going to be sick.
What is it? Seasickness?
No, I was fine all day yesterday. I think it's what we ate last night.
Oh, well, I feel fine.
Help, Freya, I'm going to be sick.
Oh, hold on. I'll try to find a bucket or something. Freya runs out of the cabin and goes to the ship's galley and finds a large soup pot. As she comes out, she hears a voice. Oi, what you doing in my galley? It's the ship's cook. Freya explains about Clarissa feeling sick. Oh, another one. The captain's also sick. Here, take this bucket, not the soup pot. Freya runs back to the cabin with the bucket. Here, Clarissa, you'll be okay now. I got you a bucket.
Thanks,
says Clarissa, and she retches violently into the bucket. She continues to feel sick for the remainder of the night. Early next morning, the cook and the first mate discuss the situation. I don't know how this could happen, says the dwarf. We checked those crates and barrels really thoroughly yesterday. I know, I can't understand it, replies Grondar. The ship sets sail again, and they now get their first real sight of the mainland of Randomia to the south. The tall dark peaks of the ridge known as the Spine rise up from the water's edge, clad in a dense coniferous forest. So let's check for our sailing conditions this morning. We roll to find out whether the conditions from the previous day continue. We roll a 1, so the weather has changed after only one day. We roll on the sailing weather table, and today it is much colder, the wind is fair, the sky is still clear. Then we check for the wind direction and speed. Again it is a moderate breeze, this time from the east. This allows the Frosty Maiden to continue to make good passage. Then we roll to see if there's any random encounter today. All the rolls are above 25, so they do not encounter anything. Clarissa is still feeling unwell and is confined to her cabin for the whole day. Connor now takes an interest in Clarissa's map of Randomia. He sits in the warding room and tries to work out where Donamara is on the map. Freya is now quite bored with the inactivity of being on board ship. She asks if she can try a bit of fishing, with the hope of catching something fresh for dinner. The ship's cook gives her a rod and some fishing tackle. You do know how to fish, don't you? He asks. Oh, yes. I've done a bit of fishing in the mountain lakes back in the Iron Peaks. Well, sea fishing's a bit different. Oh, I'll be fine. Don't worry. She sets herself up at the stern of the ship for a few hours fishing. She carefully chooses a hook, loads it with some bait, and then casts her line. She waits expectantly for a bite. So we're going to do a survival check once every 30 minutes to see if a fish bites. Our first roll is a 14, so a fish has taken the bait. Freya feels a tug on the line. Oh, I've got one, she says excitedly. We roll on the fish table to find out what kind of fish is snagged. We get an 85, so this is an orc fish. Then we compare strength rolls to see if Freya manages to land this fish. Freya rolls 6, the fish rolls 10. In her inexperience, she reels it in clumsily and the fish gets away. We then roll a survival of 4, so in the next half an hour there are no fish biting. Then we roll a 17. Suddenly a fish tugs on the line. This time it's a meow fish. Freya rolls a 23 for strength, and the fish rolls 21. There's a huge battle between Freya and this fish. Freya pulling on the rod, trying to reel it in, and the fish pulling back and darting this way and that, but eventually Freya reels it in. Oh, look everyone, I caught something, she says excitedly. Not really big enough for dinner, though. She carries on. The next half an hour yields nothing. After another half an hour, we roll a 19, so another fish is on the line. This time it's a salmon. Freya rolls a 10 for strength, and the fish rolls 14. She tries hard to reel this one in, but the fish gets away. After a further 30 minutes, she gets another bite. This time it's a largemouth bass. Freya rolls a 19, the fish only gets 8. After having had some practice, Freya is feeling a lot more confident now. She carefully reels the fish in, not pulling too hard, but not letting it pull away either. She lands the largemouth bass. She holds up the fish. Oh, that'll cook up great for dinner. She casts her line again, and soon she gets another bite. This time it's a blue catfish. Freya rolls a 5 for strength. The fish gets 22. Try as she might, Freya cannot reel this fish in. She pulls hard on the rod, and the fish pulls even harder back. Then with a final tug, the fishing rod breaks, and the fish swims away with the hook, bait and line. Freya looks at the rod. Oh, I think that's fishing over for today. She goes down to see the ship's cook. So, do you want the good news or the bad news first? She says. I'll have the good news first, he replies. She holds up a largemouth bass. I caught a great fish for you to cook tonight. The ship's cook stares in surprise. Oh, you've done well, lass. And he takes the fish. And what were the bad news? Freya holds up the broken fishing rod. I'm sorry, says Freya. The last fish got away and took most of the line. The dwarf examines the fishing rod. Oh, don't worry, lass. I'll have our bosun Turek look at it. He can make and repair almost anything. By the end of this second day, the Frosty Maiden has travelled a further 72 miles and has almost reached the headland at the mouth of Chilwyn Bay. They moor up for the night in a small cove on the coast of the mainland. That night for dinner, they all enjoy a fine dish of fresh-baked sea bass. Even Clarissa, now feeling a bit better, is tempted to have some of the fish. The next day, the ship sets sail again on this third day of their voyage to Everpool. We roll to check if the previous weather conditions continue. We roll a 4, so this weather is going to last for a few more days. Again, with the moderate breeze from the east, the ship makes good progress. Then we roll for random encounters. We roll a 51 and a 26. So again, there is no random encounter during the day. The journey continues with fine, uneventful sailing. Clarissa is feeling better today, as the sickness has passed, but she decides to remain in her cabin to rest after her illness. She spends her time rereading sections of the Wizard's Journal, as well as planning out their journey from Everpool to Lake Illuminata. So we ask the question, does Clarissa overhear anything from the other rooms on this deck? We roll 11, so this is yes but. She hears a noise coming from one of the other rooms. Connor is up on the main deck chatting with the captain, so it can't be him making the noise. And the other sleeping cabin is empty, as there is no further passenger. So this noise must be coming from the ship's office, rather than from one of the cabins. So let's roll on the story elements table to find out what Clarissa hears. We first of all roll 4 dice to find out what elements are involved. We have a situation, a person, an event, and then a further situation. Then we roll on each of these to find out more details. For our first situation, we get the words harm, interfere, demand, and gesture. For the person, we get a male halfling with neutral alignment who is envious and poor. The event is an easy encounter, and then there's a further situation with the keywords fracture, leap, hide, and end. Clarissa looks up from her book. She hears a noise coming from the ship's office. She jumps off her bed, opens the cabin door, and peers out. And this is where we will pause our story for now. This is your opportunity to decide what happens next. Use the information from the story element table, as well as what has already happened on the voyage, to work out what is going on in the ship's office. Post your ideas in the chat. I will pin the most popular ideas, and you can vote for your favourite. And then tune in again next time to discover what happens next.